What's going on, everybody? It's your boy JP, back again with another video. And of course, I got a banger for y'all. As you can already see, that's right, Red Magic 8S Pro. I already got it for y'all. I've actually had this for, heck, I've had it for over a week now. I didn't get it this past Monday, but the Monday before. And let's see, I don't remember exactly what that date was, but today it's the 27th of July, and it's Thursday. So, like I said, not this past Monday, but the Monday before. So, week and a half. And I have really been enjoying this phone. As a lot of y'all know, Red Magic phones are some of my favorite phones, if not my favorite phones. And I always get their latest ones, and I'm always very pleased, very satisfied with them. But with further ado, man, I'm gonna jump right into it. First and foremost, I am going to just get right to the. There's actually quite a few upgrades, believe it or not. The S's are generally just minor upgrades to most people, and I can definitely agree with that. I'm not gonna tell anybody that already has the Red Magic 8 Pro that they should rush out and get the 8S Pro. But at the same time, these phones are so competitively priced. And from what I found from my own personal experience is that, in 6 months they don't lose a ton of value. So I can generally recoup a lot of my money back. The 6S Pro, it actually comes out globally August 3rd. Today on the 27th, they had the early bird voucher where you pay $1 to get a $30 voucher. And this time, they've been doing that for a few years now, but this time around, they are adding an extra perk and letting you purchase it a day early. So if you got that voucher, if you paid that $1 for it, you'll not only get $30 off when it comes out, but you'll be able to purchase it the day before. So with it, you can actually get it on this. You can buy it on the 2nd of August, which is next Wednesday. Of course, I'm not sure if it ships any faster than it would if you waited to the 3rd to buy it with or without the voucher. The voucher itself is good for 3 weeks after it's released. I don't know if that goes by the 2nd or 3rd. I don't know if that day makes a difference. But you could the base price is this is the midnight color, the black color, and it's $650 without the voucher. There's no tax when you purchase from Red Magic's global website. I think shipping, if you want like express shipping, I think it's like $20 if I'm not mistaken. But just going off the $650, if you have the 8 Pro, which was also I think $650 when it came out, I mean, you can still end up selling that, on eBay or Swappa for, $500, give or take, maybe $550 if you're lucky, $450 on the low end. Just telling you that from my own personal experience. They don't really lose a lot of value that quickly, which is a good thing. And if you end up making, $5 or $550 or whatever, then, you're out $100 or $150, which, just to get the, the upgraded model. But it's just something to think about. Regardless, let me get right into it here. The major upgrade on everyone's mind is that this has what is unofficially known as the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 2. And what I mean by unofficially, when they've been calling their mid-cycle refreshes for several years now pluses, is that Qualcomm hasn't actually formally announced this chipset aside from when they were on stage with Samsung at the event that Samsung held to announce the Galaxy S23 series all the way back in February, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been January. I'm pretty sure it was in February. and they were on stage, and and of course they talked about the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 for Galaxy mobile platform, which was just, a higher clocked CPU and GPU variant of the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. And of course, if you've had those S23s, any of them, I had one. I had the Ultra for a little while. Of course, not a bad phone whatsoever. I believe me, I'm not here to knock them, by any means. But the extra horsepower is definitely something that the Samsungs need a lot of times, because they do, hate to say this, they do benchmark lower a lot of times than competitors with the same chipsets. And don't even get me started on the Exynos, but y'all already know about that. And, in phones with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, like the standard Red Magic 8 Pro, or your OnePlus 11, or your Motorola, your latest, Motorola, I forgot the name of it, the Edge Plus 2023. They, a lot of times, with the regular Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, I'm sorry, scored higher than the Samsung's, the S23 series Galaxies with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 for Galaxy. Especially the Red Magic 8 Pro. But nonetheless, though, there was no. Let me get that back on there, y'all. Bear with me there. The Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 2 has there's no. It's unofficially named that because it hasn't ever, and it's not gonna be at this point. Gonna actually be announced by Qualcomm. But that does not mean that it is a Samsung exclusive. It was obviously a time exclusive or a limited exclusive, but it's not any longer. The Red Magic 8S Pro has it. Obviously, it's not going to have the Galaxy branding because it's not a Samsung device. And everyone is pretty much referring it as the 8 Plus Gen 2 because it's just the easy way to refer to it by. That's what it would be called if Qualcomm did formally, officially announce it. Nubia actually calls it the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 leading version. Now, that was a branding that they gave to it when they announced the Chinese version of this phone. And when it was announced globally last week, it held on to that same branding, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 leading version. Which is just another way to say Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 for Galaxy, or as 98% of people are going to call it, the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 2. Now, how does that benefit this phone right here? Let me tell you, it benefits it greatly. It is definitely a fantastic chipset that the Galaxy S23 series was blessed with. It is definitely more powerful, but again, your Galaxy devices, sad to say, are not the best to showcase that, because it's only scoring the same as all of the other regular Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 powered phones, like the OnePlus 11 or again the Motorola Edge Plus 2023. And you got other Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 powered phones like the Red Magic 8 Pro or the ROG Phone 7 series, that are scoring more, with just the standard, 8 Gen 2 chipset. So now we have something that we can actually benchmark the way that processor and see what that processor is really supposed to do. And the Red Magic 8S Pro does not disappoint. The Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 2, I keep stuttering there, y'all, just because it's, just because different names and it's unofficially named at that, et cetera, et cetera. And I am used to saying plus this time of year, whenever those mid-cycle refreshes come out. But the main differences are that the main Cortex X3 core out of the 8 cores, the main core is clocked to 3.36 gigahertz versus 3.2, and the Adreno 740 is clocked at 719 megahertz versus I think the 8 Gen 2 is the Adreno 750 is regularly clocked at either 680 megahertz or 690 megahertz. Y'all can definitely correct me in the comments, but the leading version here, as Nubia officially calls it, the GPU, the Adreno 740, is clocked at 719 megahertz, and it's definitely the highest benchmarking phone. I mean, by a long shot, and very well optimized. It has gone through many upgrades, both even in software. The Red Magic 8 Pro had Red Magic OS 6. This jumps, the 8S right here jumps to Red Magic OS 8, 8.0, if you will. And I have noticed a lot of upgrades, attention to details in the operating system. It is definitely has been more refined. They've done a great job, in my opinion. It's it's not just the processor. It's the software has just been touched up. It's been greatly improved. Hence the jump from 6.0 to 8.0. Of course, the phone is also going to perform better simply because it has an even better cooling system than the previous model, which had ICE 11.0. This has ICE 12.0. And it has a new thermal plate that's directly behind the screen. The material on this phone has also been upgraded. As y'all know, the 8 Pro already had a fantastic all-new design. It's a very squared off design, a flat panel, which they've always had that. It has your under-display camera, which they've been doing since the 7 Pro, and I'm going to touch on that in a moment as well. But, it's that same, it's a gorgeous design. They really knocked it out of the park with the 8 back in January. Every review I've seen of the phone, they've raved about the new design. The old one was so stale, and this one is beautiful. And they made it further beautiful. And that is really on the back. It has this nano coating that is I can't catch on the camera, but it's really unique. It's a beautiful design, and I'm gonna get to that shimmer right there shortly here as well, because this is a non-transparent version, but it is very partially transparent, thanks to the fan. That's the fan right there, and it lights up with the RGB, as you would get on the transparent models that you didn't get. I mean, you still had the fan, the 20,000 revolution per minute fan, but you just couldn't see it if you didn't have the transparent model. But now you can. That area is transparent, and it's really cool here. Let me. I know I have a little quick toggle for it here. And of course you can see it through there. And you can see it through there. It is beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Just had to show that off. I know I said I'll get to it in a minute, but I just kind of went right into it. But it has a nano coating. And watching the Chinese announcement translated really kind of drives home this texture, this material they went with, more so than the global announcement. As y'all know, a lot, your first Red Magic phones were made of metal. Then, like everyone else, they moved to glass. Of course, they never added wireless charging, which was one of the main reasons that that a lot of manufacturers went to glass, but not the reason. And of course, those that know me know wireless charging is not a big deal for me. There's really not a mainline gaming phone that even has wireless charging. The ROG phones don't have it. The Pro might. I don't remember now. I had the 7, but not the 7 Pro. Or the 7 Ultimate, I'm sorry. But nonetheless, the 8, if I'm not mistaken, I ought to know this. I actually introduced the all glass design, at least for Red Magic gaming phones, anyways. And this nano coating has actually been made with a bit of metal. I'm pretty sure it's aluminum, not steel. Can't remember exactly. Then again, the phone is kind of heavy. It definitely feels like a brick. Well, that might be an exaggeration. I mean, it's definitely, in my opinion, it's very pleasing in the hands. I don't have a problem with it whatsoever. Even in the pocket, it doesn't feel like it's just bogging my pocket down or something like that. It's weighing it down or something. But the nano coating, it's a combination of glass and metal, and this camera really doesn't do it any justice at all. I mean, it's and of course it doesn't help that it's the black variant. The platinum version will show it off the best, I think. This is the midnight, and you have the platinum, and then you have the transparent, which is the dark black transparent, or whatever you want to. I forget what they call it. They'll probably do another silver transparent that'll come out later, like they did with the 8 Pro. But it's definitely something to see, in person. Cameras aren't gonna pick it up. It's just like I said, it improves, even more on top of the improvements that they already made 6 months ago that people raved about. And of course, speaking about rave, this phone, believe it or not, for what it is, a gaming phone first and foremost, that is the priority. The cameras were finally, after 3 or 4 years, they were finally upgraded, and they are actually really good on this phone for what it is. Bear in mind, it's not the priority. It's not even the second priority. But a lot of videos will tell you that the cameras are actually pretty freaking decent, and they are. The main one is is a 50 megapixel wide camera. It does have a f1.9 aperture, and then of course you also have an 8 megapixel ultra wide camera, and then of course your 2 megapixel macro, which I know is more or less useless. And of course you have your LED flash. It has a HDR10 plus. And as far I'm sorry, y'all. The video, it can do 8K at 30 frames per sec, 4K at 30 and 60 frames per sec, and of course 1080p at 30, 60, 120, and even 240 frames per sec. Now going to the camera right quick, the front facing hidden selfie camera. This is also another vast improvement because the Red Magic 8 Pro used the same. It used the second gen. Under display selfie camera. The 7 and 7 Pro from last year, or in the 7S Pro, they used the first generation. Nubia's other phones, like your Z40s, your Z40 series from last year was they had the second generation. Of course, your Z series is more camera centric anyways, more so than gaming. So of course they're gonna get the latest tech. Your ZTE Axon phones will as well. Now I don't know, actually I do know, because your Z40 series was actually third generation, not second generation. They were third generation. But the Red Magic phones last year, all of the 7 series, the 7, the 7 Pro, and the 7S Pro, that all came out in the US anyways, they just had just the first gen. When the Z series, the Z40 series, and the Axon 40, the one with the in-display selfie camera, had a third generation. So I didn't mean to get that mixed up a second ago there, y'all. I'm sorry, I'm talking too fast and getting ahead of myself. But this time, the 8 Pro that again came out just 6 months ago. The selfie camera on that did get upgraded. The in-display camera, that is, did get upgraded from first generation to the second generation technology. And already with the 8S Pro, just 6 months later, they've upgraded it further. They've heard y'all. They know that the details and the quality is not that great. And of course, it's not necessarily just the lens itself. It's just the what goes into the hidden display, or I should say what goes over it. It does take that quality away. So it's and I don't really know what goes into it to make it better. I'm sure it's more than just upgrading the lens itself, because you do have glass over it. But nonetheless, the 8S Pro has been upgraded from 2nd gen to 4th generation. So it actually matches the Z50 series in-display selfie cameras. Now, the Z50S just came out. That might be upgraded further to a 5th generation. I'm not entirely sure. But I did have the Z50 Ultra, which had 4th generation. The regular Z50, well, the regular Z50 wasn't a hidden display, wasn't a hidden selfie camera, but the Pro was, and I had that, and that was 4th generation, which was definitely better than the 8 Pro that I had just a month before it with its 2nd generation. But this has been upgraded to 4th generation as well, whatever that entails. And so it should match the quality that the Z50 Ultra I had. Now, of course, the front-facing camera lens itself is a 16 megapixel lens with it's a wide camera. Again, 16 megapixel with a f2.0 aperture. It does also do HDR. And the video, it does do 1080p at 30 and 60 frames per sec. This does have Snapdragon sound with the stereo speakers. They do sound great. This model right here is 256 gigs of internal storage with 12 gigs of RAM. Nubia has finally added the RAM extension feature on these phones. This is the first Red Magic phone that I've seen with it. The 8 Pro didn't have it. This has it. You can extend the RAM up to 10 gigs. So if you have a 12 gig, you're essentially making it a 20 gig phone. If you have the 16 gig model, you're essentially making it 26 gigs, which is higher than the 24 that you could get from the OnePlus 11 that I did a video on, I think. I think I touched on that. But there is a version, the Pro Plus in China, that also has quicker charging speeds, but a smaller battery that does have 24 gigs of physical RAM. That's before you extend it with the virtual feature. And so with that, you can get 34 gigs if you believe in that anyways. Now, speaking about battery, I skipped a part here. The storage is UFS 4.0, and of course the RAM is DDR5X technology. I do need to get that out there. By the way, Red Magic OS 8 is on top of Android 13, just as Red Magic OS 6 was. Now, of course, the battery on this is a 6,000 milliampere. It's a 65 watt charging. It charges really quick. I love the charging tech on this phone because it also turns on the fan to keep it cool. But it also has charge separation if you just want to maintain the charge while playing a game, for example, like Genshin Impact or something hardcore that that drains the battery or the phone gets hot. You can do charge separation that keeps all of that from happening. The display is absolutely beautiful. I mean, it's wonderful. I mean, there's not much else I can say. Of course, it's an AMOLED from BOE. It has a billion colors. It has a 120 hertz refresh rate, 1300 nits of peak brightness. It is a 6.8 inch, and it is one of those 1.5K displays that I've talked about quite a few times. Again, Xiaomi calls it Crystal Res, and like I've said many times, they're the only ones that have actually given it some kind of name because it's in between Full HD and Quad HD. It's not quite 2K, it's 1.5K. Of course, that's not an upgrade. The 8 Pro already had that, which I was very excited about, mind you. It still has Corning Gorilla Glass 5 front and back, with that nano coating on the back once again. trying to hold my position here, y'all. I'm sorry. It does have Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 5.3, NFC, of course. It does have USB Type-C 3.2. It does have the Red Magic Studio, where it has a desktop mode, but it's game console centric more so than a PC like Dex or Motorola's ready for. But it can still be used for like a desktop though. But it just has a more game console centric UI. I absolutely love it. Of course, it does have under display fingerprint sensor, which works flawlessly. It does have face unlock, which works flawlessly as well. Man, there's just so much to talk about here, and I could go on for days, and I know that is not what y'all want. There a lot of times there's a lot of confusion on these phones' compatibility with networks, 5G, LTE, etc. When these phones started coming out in the US with 5G, it was the Red Magic 5G in 2020. They were using specs from the Chinese version on the global website, and I think they are still doing that now. And a lot of reviewers, I don't think, are even putting their SIM cards in these phones sometimes when they're reviewing them. I don't have mine in it right now. I actually have it in the Nothing Phone 2, which I'll be doing a little overview on soon as well. But I've used it for a week and a half. As I have done all of your Red Magic phones, they do end up being my daily driver a lot of times. These phones, they work fantastic on 5G, on AT&T and T-Mobile. I can't really speak on the any of the providers that use their networks, because I know a lot of them have really cracked down on a lot of your BYODs, like especially with Cricket and Metro. But I've used it on AT&T prepaid and on T-Mobile Go 5G Plus, which is more of a postpaid account, and it works flawlessly on both. It gets VoLTE, LTE, 5G, all that good stuff. It works. It works great. It picks up the 5G UC network that T-Mobile uses. It'll just say 5G Plus instead of 5G UC, but it's the same thing. It works great. I mean, what more can I say? There just always seems to be a lot of confusion, and a lot of reviewers review that portion wrong. It's like they're just reading off the specs and didn't actually test it. Now, yes, that's not all their fault. Of course, they should still test it if they're going to touch on it. But it's Nubia's fault as well, because they're not updating their sites properly. And y'all don't pay any attention to that. A lot of times when you try to use these on cameras and you try to do the fingerprint, it doesn't work. I mean, it works flawlessly. So don't let that mistaken you there. Anyways, y'all, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. There's everything that's in the box there. You do get the fast charger in the box at 65 watt. Google, Samsung, Apple, and Nothing as well. The Nothing phone didn't have the brick in it either. You do get that hard shell case right there. Your reading material there, of course. It's great. Sorry for the stuttering there, y'all. That's right. You get your 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. How can I forget that? Because I know that is very popular with a lot of people still. There's something else I want to talk about too, and that's your switch to go into the Red Magic mode there for the gaming. You can change all of your, you can change the performance for the games. You have your touch sensitive trigger buttons there. I didn't go on that there, y'all. I'm sorry. I definitely apologize. You're always on display. Really quick, Nubia finally added an actual always on display that is always on. Like Motorola, they still turn off. They don't actually stay on. Motorola's are known for that too. With the Red Magic, because I know the Red Magic 8 Pro didn't do it, but the 8S Pro right here, it does. It finally has actual always on display. real always on, not just scheduled always on. I wanted to touch on that. That was a big upgrade for the Red Magic OS 8. Just to to name one of them. But of course, very fluid. I think it's great, y'all. Of course, you already know these are my favorite phones. But hit me up in the comments. Sorry for this being so long here. I thought I was getting better, but I love these phones, and there's just a lot to talk about, despite just being a mid-cycle refresh. To me, it's just kind of more than that. And I've really enjoyed this phone. But peace out, and I will check y'all out in the next video.